The starship Aurora Dawn slowed as it entered the glittering orbit of Thalissa Prime. Through the wide viewing windows, endless towers of crystal reflected the pale light of two suns, turning the entire planet into a shining sea of blue and silver. For many on board, it was a breathtaking sight. But for Dr. Marcus Hale, it was a reason for his heartbeat to quicken. He was the lead human ambassador for this historic first meeting with the Varelians, a proud alien race known for their sharp intellect and deep traditions. Marcus stood near the glass, straightening the collar of his dark formal jacket. His reflection stared back at him, brown eyes, a sharp jaw, and a face that was calm only on the surface. Inside, his stomach felt like a knot of twisted wires. The fate of humanity's first alliance with the Varelians rested on his words. He had delivered speeches to world leaders before, but nothing compared to the pressure of greeting a species that could cross galaxies in a single jump. Behind him, Tara Singh, his communications aide, tapped a glowing screen to check the translator drones. "The drones are online," she said, her voice low but steady. "They will convert every word you say into Varelian tongue. Just remember to speak clearly and avoid casual Earth jokes." Marcus forced a dry smile. "You mean avoid being human?" "Exactly," Tara replied, half joking, half serious. "They respect order and dignity. A wrong word might sound harmless to us, but could mean disaster to them." Marcus nodded, though a nervous chuckle escaped his lips. He knew she was right. The Varelians were known for strict customs. Every move today would be recorded, translated, and analyzed by billions of eyes across two civilizations. Yet despite the weight of this mission, part of him felt an itch to break the tension with humor. It was a human habit, sometimes a dangerous one. The Aurora Dawn docked at a floating platform of crystal and light. A gentle chime echoed through the ship, announcing that the Varelian welcome party awaited. Marcus inhaled, adjusted his jacket one last time, and walked toward the shimmering airlock with Tara and two security officers close behind. As the doors opened, a wave of cool air swept over them. The landing platform sparkled like ice under the twin suns. Varelian soldiers, tall and elegant, stood in symmetrical rows. Their skin glowed with shades of blue, some deep as midnight, others pale as moonlight. They wore flowing robes made of silver threads that caught every glint of light. Their faces were calm, their eyes bright with a strange inner glow. Marcus tried not to stare, but his curiosity pulled his gaze to each alien feature. The Varelians were beautiful in a way no human artist could capture. Perfectly balanced, every movement graceful and precise. Among them, one figure stood out immediately. She approached with a slow, commanding stride. Her long robe shimmered like liquid sapphire, and a crown of silver branches rested lightly on her tall head. Her eyes, a deep ocean blue, carried the weight of authority. This was Queen Zanara, ruler of the Varelian Council. The translator drone hovered near Marcus, ready to echo his words. He stepped forward and gave a deep bow as rehearsed. "Honored Queen Zanara," he began, his voice carefully calm. "On behalf of Earth and the people of humanity, I bring greetings of peace and friendship." The drone translated his words into a series of melodic chimes and soft hums. The Queen tilted her head slightly, listening. Her expression remained unreadable. Marcus continued with the planned speech, speaking of shared curiosity, mutual respect, and the hope of lasting alliance. The drone repeated every phrase perfectly. The Queen gave a small, dignified nod when he finished. A soft wave of relief washed over Marcus. So far, so good. As the formal greetings ended, attendants guided Marcus and his team toward the grand hall of reception. The path wound across a bridge of crystal that sang faintly beneath each step. Below, a river of glowing liquid light flowed through the city like a living star. Marcus tried to stay focused on his surroundings, but his nerves remained tight. Tara leaned closer as they walked. "You're doing fine," she whispered. "Just keep the rest of the meeting as smooth as that." Marcus gave a small grin. "Smooth as crystal," he replied. They entered the Hall of Harmonies, a vast chamber of towering crystal pillars that hummed with a gentle music. Light from the twin suns filtered through the ceiling, creating ripples of blue and silver across the polished floor. Rows of Varelian council members stood in silent formation. At the far end, Queen Zainara rose onto a raised platform shaped like a blooming flower of stone. As Marcus approached the center of the hall, he felt every eye on him. His palms were damp despite the cool air. He paused to gather his thoughts, waiting for the Queen to begin the ceremonial exchange of gifts. Then, in that heavy silence, his human instincts betrayed him. He turned slightly to Tara and, in a whisper meant only for her, muttered, "She looks like a Smurf." The word slipped out before his mind could catch it, a nervous attempt to break the tension with a quiet Earth reference to an old cartoon. He thought the translator drone was out of range. It wasn't. The small sphere floating above them immediately detected the sound, processed it, and projected it into the hall with perfect clarity. A melodious but sharp echo rang out. Smurf. The chamber fell silent. Every crystal note seemed to pause mid-air. Varelian eyes widened. Guards stiffened. A faint ripple of light passed through the crystal pillars as if the hall itself disapproved. Marcus froze, his heart slamming like a drum. "No, no, no, no," he whispered under his breath. Tara's face went pale. She quickly tapped the drone, but it was too late. Queen Zanara's deep blue eyes narrowed. Her graceful head tilted slightly, and the crown of silver branches gleamed as she turned toward Marcus. The translator hummed again, interpreting the strange word with a guess based on emotional context. "This human calls the queen a diminutive blue creature of mockery." The crowd gasped, a sharp rising chorus of chimes. Marcus opened his mouth, desperate to explain. It doesn't mean," but the queen raised a single elegant hand and the hall fell silent again. Her voice was soft but carried across the chamber like a wave of thunder. "Mockery of the crown," the translator announced, "is punishable by removal of status and life." Two crystal-armored guards stepped forward, their movements precise and unhurried. Their glowing staffs hummed with quiet power as they approached Marcus. "No, wait," Marcus said, holding up his hands. "It's a joke, an Earth joke. It's not an insult." The drone translated his frantic words into a series of confused tones. The Varelians looked puzzled but unmoved. Their expressions were calm, but their eyes betrayed a faint spark of curiosity. Queen Zanara remained still for a long, tense moment. Finally, she spoke again, her voice colder than the crystal walls. "Until this insult is understood and judged, the human shall be held in the Chamber of Echoes. There he will await the decision of the council." The guard stepped closer. Tara took a step forward, panic flashing in her eyes. "Your Majesty, please." A guard's staff gently but firmly blocked her path. Marcus felt the cold grip of alien hands on his arms as they guided him toward the side door. The sound of their crystal boots echoed through the hall like the slow toll of a warning bell. As he was led away, Marcus looked back toward the queen. For a brief moment, he thought he saw something flicker behind her calm eyes. Not just anger, but curiosity, perhaps even the faintest shadow of amusement. Or maybe it was his desperate imagination. The door closed behind him, sealing him inside a corridor of shimmering blue light. His heart pounded as the guards guided him deeper into the alien palace. He had come to build peace between worlds, and now, because of one clumsy word, he was a prisoner facing an unknown judgment. In the silence of the glowing hallway, Marcus muttered under his breath, "All this, because of a Smurf." The crystal walls echoed the strange human word back at him, soft and musical as if the planet itself were laughing. The door closed behind Dr. Marcus Hale with a deep ringing tone, and the sound stretched through the hallway like the slow vibration of a giant bell. Two Varelian guards guided him forward without speaking. Their tall figures shimmered in the faint blue glow of the corridor, their crystal armor catching every flicker of light. Marcus walked between them, trying not to stumble on the smooth floor. His mind raced. He had arrived on SciFi-Prime to build peace between two civilizations. Now he was a prisoner because of a single Earth word, Smurf, that no alien translator could possibly understand. The guards stopped in front of a door shaped like an enormous crystal teardrop. One guard placed a long, slender hand on a glowing panel. A soft hum filled the air as the door melted open, revealing a chamber unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. The room glowed with gentle light. Its walls were made of pure crystal, each surface so smooth it reflected his face like a mirror. The crystals were alive with faint music, a low, constant singing sound that changed with every step he took. When he exhaled, the walls answered with a soft chime, as if the air itself carried his emotions back to him. "This is the Chamber of Echoes," one guard said in perfect English, his voice calm but firm. "Here your thoughts will not be hidden." The walls repeat sound and heart. "You will wait for judgment." Before Marcus could reply, the guard stepped back. The door closed with a final note, leaving him alone in the shimmering blue silence. Marcus walked slowly around the room, pressing a hand against one of the crystal walls. It was cool and smooth like ice, yet faint vibrations tickled his palm. When he whispered, "Hello?" the walls echoed the word back, not once but many times, each repetition softer and slower until it became a gentle hum. The sound made the hair on his neck rise. It felt as though the chamber itself was alive, listening. "Great," Marcus muttered. "A singing prison. Perfect." The walls repeated his words. Singing prison. Perfect. In a musical whisper that almost sounded amused. Marcus sat on the floor, pulling his knees up to his chest. He tried to stay calm, but the weight of the situation pressed down like a heavy stone. What if the Queen decided to make an example of him? What if the Council chose execution? He had no way to explain the joke. How could he tell them that a Smurf was simply a tiny blue cartoon character from Earth, not an insult to an alien queen? He buried his face in his hands. "I'm doomed because of a children's show," he groaned. The chamber answered softly. "Children's show?" Before he could sink deeper into despair, a faint sound broke the stillness, the soft click of the crystal door opening. Marcus looked up quickly. A figure stepped inside, her slender shape framed by the glowing entrance. She was Varelian, but younger than the guards or the Queen. Her skin was a gentle sky blue, lighter than the deep sapphire of Queen Zinara. Long silver hair flowed down her back like a river of starlight. She wore a robe of soft white crystal threads that shimmered when she moved. Her eyes glowed with quiet curiosity. "I am Leary," she said, her voice soft like wind over water. "I am a scholar of human culture. The Council sent me to study you while you wait." Marcus blinked. "Study me? I'm not exactly in the mood for an interview." Leary tilted her head slightly, her silver hair catching the light. "Understanding you may help the Council decide your fate. Perhaps it may help you as well." Marcus gave a tired sigh. "Unless you can explain a Smurf, I don't see how." Leary stepped closer, folding her hands in front of her. "This word, Smurf. The Queen believes it is an insult. The translation machines found no meaning, but they detected a pattern of humor." "Explain it to me." Marcus rubbed his forehead. "It's complicated. On Earth, a Smurf is a small blue character from a very old animated show. They're friendly, funny, and harmless. I didn't mean anything bad. He hesitated, embarrassed. "I just thought the Queen's skin color reminded me of those characters." It was supposed to be a private joke. The translator picked it up, and well, here I am. Leary's eyes sparkled faintly. "So you compared our Queen to a small creature of joy?" Marcus winced. "When you say it like that, it sounds even worse." To his surprise, Leary let out a soft musical sound, a Varelian laugh. It was like the ringing of tiny bells. "This is amusing," she said. "You risk death for a word of happiness." Marcus stared. "You're laughing?" "I thought Varelians didn't—" "We are not forbidden to laugh," Leary said, though her voice lowered as if sharing a secret. "But laughter is rare among us. We value harmony and control. To laugh is to show what cannot be controlled." Marcus tilted his head. "So, if someone laughs, it means they feel something strong?" Leary nodded slowly. "Yes, only the Queen has not laughed in 1,000 cycles. It is said that if a person can make her laugh, they earn the right of joy. The old laws protect them from harm, for one who awakens joy cannot be punished." Marcus's eyes widened. "Wait, are you saying if I can make the Queen laugh, she can't execute me?" "The law is old, but it still binds the Council," Leary replied. "Yet no one has ever succeeded. The Queen carries the weight of our history. Her heart is careful." Marcus leaned back against the crystal wall, a flicker of hope sparking in his chest. "Humans are pretty good at making people laugh," he said. "It's what we do when we're scared." Leary studied him closely. "Perhaps your strange humor is your strength. But be careful. The Queen may see failed attempts as greater insult." Marcus let out a short laugh of his own. "Story of my life. Humor saves the day or blows everything up." The walls repeated his words, "Saves the day or blows everything up," in a gentle echo that made Leary's lips curl upward again. They spent the next hour talking. Marcus told her about Earth, about oceans and forests, about movies and festivals. He explained the idea of cartoons, stories drawn with lines and colors instead of living actors. Leary listened with wide, fascinated eyes. She asked endless questions about human habits. Why do people celebrate birthdays? Why do humans dance when no music plays? Why do jokes sometimes make no logical sense? Marcus tried to answer as simply as he could. Because, he said with a shrug, sometimes life is heavy. Humor makes it lighter, even if only for a moment. Leary was silent for a long time. Finally, she touched the crystal wall and whispered almost to herself, "Light in heavy places. Perhaps that is a kind of strength." The chamber echoed her words softly, "Kind of strength." Before Marcus could reply, the door opened again. A Varelian guard stepped inside, his crystal armor glowing faintly. "Time is complete," he said. "The human will face the council at the next sunrise." Marcus stood, his heart beating faster. "Already? I thought I'd have more time." "The Queen has called for judgment," the guard said. His tone held no anger, only calm duty. Leary looked at Marcus, her eyes bright with an emotion he could not name. "Remember what we spoke of," she said quietly. "If you can awaken joy, you may live." Marcus managed a weak smile. "No pressure, right?" Leary tilted her head again, a faint sparkle of amusement in her gaze. "Humans carry pressure as they carry breath. Perhaps that is why you laugh." The guard motioned for Marcus to follow. As he stepped toward the door, Marcus glanced back at Leary. For the first time since the disaster in the Great Hall, he felt something close to hope. Maybe, just maybe, his strange human gift for humor could save his life. The door closed behind him with a deep singing tone. The crystal walls of the hallway hummed softly, repeating his final whispered words, "Maybe humor can save me," until they faded into a quiet, endless song. The first rays of SciFi-Prime's twin suns spread across the horizon like two silver ribbons. The crystal city glowed with gentle light, and every tower reflected the dawn in endless shades of blue. Inside the Aurora Dawn's holding wing, Dr. Marcus Hale awoke to the soft chime of the Chamber of Echoes. He sat up slowly, rubbing his tired eyes. The night had been long. He had replayed Leary's words in his mind again and again. "If you can awaken joy, you may live." Marcus stood and stretched, the faint hum of the crystal walls following his movement. His reflection stared back at him from every surface. One man in a dark jacket about to face a council of an alien world. "No pressure," he whispered to himself. The chamber echoed his words with a soft musical twist as if mocking his attempt to sound brave. The door opened with a deep tone. Two Varelian guards stepped inside, their silver armor shining in the morning light. One of them spoke with calm authority. "The Queen summons you to the Hall of Harmonies. Your judgment begins at first sun." Marcus exhaled and gave a small nod. "All right, let's get this over with." The guards led him through long corridors of glittering blue crystal. Every step produced a soft note, creating a slow, rising melody that followed their march. Varelian citizens lined the balconies above, silent but curious. Their eyes glowed faintly in the morning light, watching the strange human who had dared to mock their queen. Marcus tried to stand tall, though his stomach felt like a knot of frozen rope. He caught glimpses of their expressions, some cold, some merely curious, and a few that looked almost sympathetic. The doors of the Hall of Harmonies opened, and a bright wave of light poured over him. Marcus stepped inside and nearly lost his breath. The hall was even more magnificent than before. Thousands of crystal pillars rose toward the high ceiling, humming softly as sunlight flowed through them. The polished floor mirrored the glow of the two suns, creating the illusion of walking on liquid light. Rows of Varelian citizens filled the balconies, their robes shimmering like frozen waterfalls. At the far end, Queen Zanara sat on her raised platform, her silver crown gleaming like a star. A hush fell across the hall as Marcus walked to the center of the chamber. The sound of his footsteps echoed through the pillars, each step singing like a tiny bell. The translator drone hovered above his head, ready to carry every word to the council. Marcus swallowed hard and looked up at the queen. Her deep blue eyes were calm and unreadable. A tall Varelian elder stepped forward, his long robe trailing across the crystal floor. He carried a staff that glowed with faint light. When he spoke, his voice resonated through the chamber like a slow chord of music. The translator converted his words into English. "Human Marcus Hale," the elder said, "you are charged with mockery of the crown, a crime of deep dishonor. Your words, Smurf, remain without meaning in our language, but the translator reports a pattern of jest. Explain your purpose before the Queen and the Council." All eyes turned to Marcus. He felt the weight of 1,000 stares pressing down on him. He cleared his throat and took a step forward. "Honored Queen Zinara, members of the council." Marcus began carefully, his voice steady despite his pounding heart. "First, I must say that I never meant disrespect. The word I spoke on Smurf is not an insult. On Earth, it is the name of a small, cheerful character from an old animated story. These characters are friendly and harmless. My comment was a nervous mistake, not an attack on your honor." The translator repeated his words in melodic tones. Murmurs spread across the hall like a breeze through a field of chimes. The elder raised a hand and the sound quickly faded. The queen tilted her head slightly. Her eyes narrowed not with anger but with careful thought. "You speak of a creature of joy," the translator announced in her measured voice. "Yet you use this word while looking upon your queen. Why compare me to such a thing?" Marcus hesitated. He knew that logic alone might not save him. Lyrie's warning echoed in his mind. If you can awaken joy, you may live. He decided to take a risk. "Your Majesty," he said, taking a slow breath. "Humans have a strange way of facing fear. When we are nervous or afraid, we sometimes use humor to release the tension. It is not meant to harm, but to make heavy moments feel lighter. I was overwhelmed by your presence, by your beauty and strength. The word slipped out because I felt nervous and because your blue color reminded me of something from my childhood. It was foolish, but it was not cruel." The queen listened without blinking. Around the hall, a few Varelians tilted their heads in curiosity. Marcus knew he had only one chance. He straightened his shoulders and let a small awkward smile cross his face. "If it pleases the court," he said, "I would like to show you what humans call humor, so you can understand why this word carries no harm." A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd. The elder glanced at the queen. After a long pause, she raised a single elegant hand. "Proceed," the translator announced. Marcus exhaled in relief and began. He told them the story of the Smurfs in simple words, describing tiny blue creatures who lived in a forest, solved problems together, and often confused outsiders with their playful language. He mimicked the way the cartoon characters added the word Smurf to almost every sentence. Smurf the door, Smurf the food, Smurf the sky, gesturing dramatically as he spoke. At first the hall remained silent. The Varelians watched with polite stillness, their glowing eyes fixed on him. Marcus felt a bead of sweat roll down his neck. Maybe this is a mistake, he thought. Then he decided to go further. He acted out a scene from the show, pretending to be a clumsy Smurf tripping over a mushroom. He stumbled in an exaggerated way, waving his arms and landing in a half-spin that made his translator drone wobble wildly to keep up. A faint chime of laughter escaped from the back rows of the crowd. Marcus heard it, a light bell-like sound, and pressed on. He described a human festival where people paint themselves blue for fun, throwing colored powder into the air until everyone looks like a walking rainbow. He raised his arms and spun as if tossing invisible colors. More chimes followed, soft and hesitant at first, then stronger. Varelian citizens covered their mouths in surprise as the sound of their own laughter escaped. Marcus glanced toward the queen. She sat perfectly still, her deep blue eyes fixed on him. He felt the pressure of her gaze like the weight of a mountain. For his final attempt, Marcus stepped forward and said, "If I were a Smurf, I suppose I'd be called Nervous Smurf. Because right now I'm very, very nervous." The translator repeated the joke in gentle tones. There was a pause. Then a single clear note broke the silence, a soft melodic laugh. It came from the throne. Queen Zinara's lips curved into the smallest of smiles. A warm ringing sound followed, deeper than any other chime. The hall gasped as the queen's laughter filled the air, bright and powerful. Crystal pillars vibrated in harmony, sending waves of sparkling light across the floor. The elder lowered his staff in astonishment. "The right of joy," he announced, his voice trembling. "The ancient law is fulfilled. The human awakens laughter in the queen. He cannot be punished." A wave of musical applause spread through the hall, like 1,000 tiny bells ringing at once. Marcus stood frozen, hardly believing what he heard. The queen rose slowly from her throne. Her eyes, now softer and almost playful, met his. "Human Marcus Hale," the translator said in her warm voice. "You have brought a sound long absent from this hall. Your word of joy is no insult. Your life is spared." Marcus let out a shaky breath, relief flooding through him like a sudden tide. "Thank you, Your Majesty," he said, bowing deeply. "I'm honored." and very grateful that you appreciate a good joke." The Queen gave the smallest nod, her silver crown shimmering in the sunlight. "Perhaps," the translator added with a faint musical lilt, "humans are not as fragile as they appear." The crowd chimed in agreement. As guards led Marcus back toward the side corridor, this time with no chains, only respectful bows, he caught sight of Leary standing near the edge of the platform. She gave him a secret smile, a tiny sparkle of triumph in her eyes. Marcus grinned back. Humor had saved his life, and maybe, just maybe, it had opened a door between two worlds. The crystal pillars of the Hall of Harmonies still vibrated with soft, lingering music from Queen Zinara's rare laughter. Dr. Marcus Hale felt every echo in his chest as he stepped carefully across the polished floor. For the first time since the disaster in the Great Hall, he breathed freely. His arms no longer trembled, and the fear that had weighed on him like a mountain seemed to lift slightly. The Queen remained seated on her throne, the silver branches of her crown reflecting the morning sunlight like delicate rays of ice. Her eyes, deep and thoughtful, followed Marcus with a quiet intensity. Despite the grandeur of the moment, there was a faint, almost imperceptible smile lingering at the corners of her lips. The elder, standing near the throne with his glowing staff, addressed the hall. "The ancient law of the Varelians declares that any being who awakens joy in the Queen shall be protected. Let this human, Marcus Hale, be spared the punishment of mockery." A soft wave of chimes filled the hall as the citizens murmured in agreement. Marcus felt the tension in his body ease further. He had survived the worst, and the first rays of hope shone brighter than the twin suns outside. Yet even as relief filled him, Marcus realized that his task was not fully complete. The Queen had laughed once, yes, but the Council remained serious, the world outside his crystal prison still tense. Marcus needed to make this moment unforgettable. He needed to show the Varelians the true value of humor. He cleared his throat and looked at the Queen. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "if I may, I would like to tell you a story from Earth. It is about a human who tried very hard not to make mistakes but kept doing them anyway. It is quite silly, but I think it might make you understand humans better." The translator drone hovered closer, ready to repeat his words. Queen Zinara inclined her head slightly, signaling her consent. Marcus swallowed nervously and began. "On Earth," he said, "there was a human who wanted to impress an important group of people. He practiced speeches every day, polished his shoes, and even memorized polite gestures. But on the day of the great meeting, he tripped over a small rug, spilled water on his notes, and accidentally shouted something that made everyone stare. Instead of being angry, the people laughed. And that human realized that mistakes are not always disasters. They can sometimes bring joy." He acted out the story with exaggerated movements, pretending to slip on an invisible rug, flailing his arms dramatically, and bumping into the air as if knocking over a pile of imaginary papers. The crystal pillars responded with soft echoes, amplifying the sound of his gestures into a symphony of musical hums. A faint chime of laughter came from the first row of Varelians. Another joined it. Marcus felt a spark of encouragement and continued. "And sometimes," he said, bowing deeply in his performance, "humans cannot help but laugh at themselves. Because even when we fail, the world is still worth smiling about." The Queen remained seated, but Marcus noticed a subtle change in her posture. Her shoulders loosened slightly, and the tension around her glowing eyes softened. The hall, which had been quiet and tense, began to hum with a warmth that filled the air like sunlight through crystal. Leary, watching from the side, gave Marcus a small nod of encouragement. He swallowed his nervousness and pressed on. "Humor is not weakness," he said, walking slowly toward the center of the hall. "It is strength. It allows us to face fear and uncertainty. It helps humans and perhaps other beings connect across differences. It can turn worry into relief, tension into harmony, and strangers into friends." He paused for effect, spreading his arms wide as if embracing the entire chamber. The translator repeated his words in flowing tones, carrying the meaning of human emotion in ways Marcus could not fully imagine. Then, cautiously, Marcus added a line he had not planned. "And sometimes humor can even save a life. Like mine, I hope." There was a long silence. The citizens and council members watched him carefully. Marcus felt the air hum and shimmer around him, as if the crystals themselves were listening with expectation. Then, slowly, a sound came from the throne, a single melodic laugh, low and resonant. Marcus froze, not daring to breathe. The Queen's laugh was unlike anything he had ever heard. It rolled through the hall like a wave, striking the crystal pillars and setting off a cascade of sparkling vibrations. The music of the hall intertwined with her laughter, creating a chorus of sound so beautiful it made Marcus's chest ache with awe. He stepped back slightly, unsure if it was allowed to move. The laughter grew louder, carrying with it a warmth that seemed to melt the tension in the room. The Elder's staff glowed brighter, and the citizens joined in, clapping their hands softly, producing musical notes that harmonized with the Queen's voice. Marcus Hale, the translator, announced, "You have fulfilled the right of joy. The Council recognizes the law. You cannot be harmed. The human brings a sound of happiness that has not echoed in this hall for 1,000 cycles." Marcus's knees almost buckled from relief. He let out a shaky laugh of his own, covering his mouth with one hand. I didn't know I could do that," he whispered. Leary's eyes sparkled. "You did, Marcus. You reminded them, and the Queen, that joy is a force, not a weakness." The Queen rose from her throne. The silver branches of her crown caught the sunlight, casting intricate patterns of light across the hall. Her voice, repeated through the translator, was calm but strong. "Human Marcus Hale," she said, "you have awakened laughter where none existed for many generations. This gift is precious. Your life is protected by the ancient law, and your presence honors the Council." Marcus bowed deeply, feeling a mix of relief, pride, and awe. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I am honored beyond words." The Queen's eyes softened further, and for a fleeting moment Marcus thought he saw genuine amusement glimmer in them. The hall, once tense and serious, now pulsed with warmth and color. Crystal spires shone brighter, and the chimes of laughter lingered in the air. The Elder stepped forward, raising his staff. "Let it be known throughout SCIFI-Prime and beyond," he announced, "that the human has brought joy to the Queen, and by the law, shall be recognized as an ambassador of joy. Let the record reflect that humor, rare and courageous, can bridge the divide between worlds." The citizens erupted into gentle applause, musical and melodic, a sound unlike anything Marcus had heard on Earth. He could feel their approval, their curiosity, and their admiration. For the first time in his life, he realized that something as simple as laughter could be a powerful force in diplomacy, stronger than speeches or treaties. Lyrie approached him, her eyes shining. "The Council has never seen a human act with such courage," she said quietly. "You have shown them that even in fear, humans can create light." Marcus smiled, a genuine, relieved grin. "Well, I guess Earth's cartoons finally did something useful," he said. The absurdity of the moment making him laugh softly, Leary's laughter followed, a soft melodic chime that matched the music of the hall. Together they walked toward the exit as the Queen returned to her throne. Marcus glanced back at her, noting the calm yet approving gaze she now gave him. He felt a wave of gratitude he could not put into words. Outside the hall, the corridors were filled with citizens bowing respectfully. Virelians of all ages waved, their expressions curious and friendly. Marcus realized that his accident, the word he had thought would destroy him, had actually opened doors. Humans were not just visitors on SCIFI-Prime. They had a voice, a presence, and now, a place in the hearts of these alien beings. As Marcus and Leary walked through the crystal corridors, she spoke softly. "You have changed more than your fate today, Marcus. You have changed how humans are seen. You have reminded the Virelians that joy and courage can come from the most unexpected places." Marcus chuckled softly. "I just tripped over a metaphorical rug, told a silly story, and hoped for the best." Leary smiled, her silver hair glinting in the sunlight. Sometimes the smallest actions, like laughter, can echo across the stars. Marcus felt the truth in her words. Humor, joy, and courage, simple things on Earth, had bridged the vast gap between worlds. And in doing so, he realized that humanity's greatest strength might not be technology or weapons, but something far more subtle, the ability to create light in the darkest places, even with nothing more than a smile or a story. The twin suns rose higher over SCIFI-Prime, their light reflecting in every crystal tower. Marcus looked out over the sparkling city and felt a surge of hope. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and unknowns, yet he had learned something powerful. Even a single human armed with humor and courage could make a difference. For the first time, Marcus did not feel small. He felt connected, to Earth, to SCIFI-Prime, and to a universe that might finally understand the value of laughter. The Hall of Harmonies hummed softly behind him, a gentle song of light, joy, and promise. And as Marcus Hale stepped fully into the sunlight, he realized that his adventure had only just begun. The city of SCIFI-Prime glimmered like a sea of blue crystals under the light of the twin suns. Marcus Hale stepped carefully along the floating walkways, his eyes taking in the breathtaking towers, sparkling bridges, and rivers of liquid light flowing beneath. He had walked these streets as a nervous guest, a frightened prisoner, and now, as an ambassador whose humor had changed the course of interstellar diplomacy. The events of the past days played in his mind like a strange, vivid dream. He remembered the terrifying moment when he accidentally called Queen Zanara a Smurf, the cold stares of the council, and the crystal walls of the chamber of echoes that repeated every sound, every heartbeat. He smiled faintly, shaking his head. Who would have thought that one word, a careless joke from his childhood, could lead to an entire planet hearing his story and laughter? Leary walked beside him, her silver hair catching the sunlight. "The council has approved a special ceremony," she said, her voice soft but excited. "Today humans will be formally recognized as allies, and you, Marcus, will be honored as an ambassador of joy." Marcus tried to hide his surprise. "An ambassador of joy?" he said, laughing lightly. "I thought I was just lucky the Queen didn't execute me." Larry's musical laugh rang out, echoing gently along the crystal walkways. "Luck alone cannot explain this, Marcus." You reminded her that life has light even in moments of fear. That is something the Varelians respect deeply. The walk to the grand hall of crystalline light took them over bridges that shimmered like flowing water, with citizens waving and bowing respectfully. The hall itself was enormous, with crystal pillars rising hundreds of feet into the air. Sunlight refracted through the towers, sending patterns of blue, silver, and gold across the floor. For Marcus, it was breathtaking, but it was also intimidating. The entire council and thousands of Varelian citizens would gather here to witness his recognition. Inside the hall, preparations were underway for the ceremony. Crystal platforms reflected light in a dazzling display, and floating holographic banners displayed the history of Varelian human contact. Marcus noticed small children, their pale blue skin sparkling in the light, giggling quietly at the thought of the human who had made their queen laugh. Leary leaned close and whispered, "Today is not just about you, Marcus. It is about showing humans as a species capable of courage, creativity, and joy. The council will remember this day for cycles to come." Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. He stepped onto the central platform as the twin suns cast their light directly onto him. The council members were arranged in a wide semicircle, their expressions solemn yet curious. Queen Zanara sat at the center, her silver crown shining brilliantly. Marcus bowed deeply, a gesture of respect, even as his nerves hummed with anticipation. The eldest member of the council raised his staff, the glowing tip signaling the beginning of the ceremony. "We gather today," he said, his voice resonating like soft chimes, "to honor a human who has shown courage, humor, and ingenuity. Marcus Hale has reminded us that joy is a universal language, bridging the distance between worlds." Marcus exhaled slowly. It felt strange, surreal to be praised in such a formal way. He could feel the eyes of thousands of Varelians on him, yet the memory of fear that had once pressed down on his chest seemed distant, almost impossible to imagine now. Queen Zanara stood slowly, the light reflecting off her crown and robes. Her voice, repeated through the translator drone, carried a calm but warm authority. "Marcus Hale, you have awakened laughter and joy in this hall. By ancient law, you are recognized not only as a guest but as a symbol of courage and diplomacy. You have proven that humor, when used with sincerity, can create bonds stronger than fear or tradition." The hall echoed with gentle, melodic applause. The sound was unlike anything Marcus had heard on Earth, a harmony of music, voices, and the soft resonance of crystal. It was beautiful, and it made his chest swell with pride. Marcus stepped forward and spoke, keeping his tone respectful but honest. "Your Majesty, honored council members, citizens of SCIFI-Prime, I never imagined that one careless word could lead to this moment. On Earth, we often underestimate the power of laughter, but I have learned that it can be more powerful than fear. more lasting than anger and more meaningful than any rule written in stone. The translator repeated his words in flowing tones. The Queen's eyes softened further, and Marcus felt a strange warmth pass through him. "Marcus," Leary whispered, leaning close, "this day will be remembered in stories and teachings across our world. You have changed perceptions of humanity forever." Marcus nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "It seems like something as simple as a joke can create history." The ceremony continued, with citizens presenting gifts to Marcus, crystal sculptures, luminescent fabrics, and intricate devices that hummed softly. Every item carried symbolism, expressing respect, honor, and a recognition of human courage and creativity. Marcus accepted each gift with gratitude, bowing politely and occasionally whispering a small, humorous comment, which the translator rendered beautifully into melodic tones. Laughter echoed quietly through the hall, not from mockery but from genuine amusement. After the formalities, Queen Zainara invited Marcus to speak privately. He followed her through a corridor of shimmering light to a smaller chamber, quieter and more personal. The walls reflected soft blue tones, and the air carried a faint hum of music. "Marcus Hale," the Queen said, her voice calm and thoughtful. "You have risked your life through words and humor. That is rare in any species. But tell me, why do humans laugh at mistakes? Why do you find joy in what others might fear?" Marcus took a moment to consider. "Your Majesty, humans are small and fragile in a big universe. We make mistakes constantly, yet we survive. Humor helps us face fear. It reminds us that even in darkness there can be light. Laughter connects us, teaches us, and sometimes saves us." The Queen listened silently, nodding slowly. "Perhaps that is why I have not laughed in so long. We, the Varelians, value control and perfection. We forget that mistakes can bring joy, even beauty." Marcus smiled softly. "Sometimes the best lessons come from the smallest things. A story, a joke, or even a word spoken by accident." The Queen's lips curved slightly, a faint trace of amusement. "And sometimes," she said, "those smallest things can build bridges across stars." Marcus felt the truth in her words. The Smurf incident, the word that had terrified him, the word that had almost ended his life, had become the bridge between Earth and Thalissa Prime. It had shown that humanity was capable not just of technology or diplomacy, but of creativity, courage, and joy. Outside the chamber, Leary was waiting with a group of young Varelians, eager to hear Marcus's stories of Earth. Children clutched small crystal devices to record his words, their eyes wide with curiosity and excitement. For Marcus, it was a reminder that laughter and storytelling could inspire even the youngest minds. As he walked among them, he noticed small signs of change in the city. Statues now depicted humans alongside Varelians, often laughing together. Public displays included murals of tiny blue cartoon-like figures, Smurfs, reminding everyone that even humor could leave a lasting mark on culture. Leary leaned close to Marcus. "Your story will be told for cycles. Children will wear costumes of Smurf diplomats during festivals, teaching them that courage and joy are valuable traits." Marcus laughed softly. Who knew that a careless joke could turn into a cultural festival? "The galaxy," Leary replied, "works in strange ways. You have reminded the Varelians that joy is universal, and perhaps that humanity itself is a treasure worth knowing." Days later, Marcus returned to the Aurora Dawn, the first human starship to visit Thalissa Prime, now welcomed with cheers and laughter rather than suspicion. He carried with him not only the honor of survival, but the trust and admiration of an entire alien civilization. In the weeks that followed, humanity and Thalissa Prime signed agreements of cultural exchange, focusing on storytelling, art, and humor. Humans shared movies, music, and theatrical performances, while Varelians taught crystal engineering, meditation, and the art of harmonic architecture. Marcus often reflected on the day it all began, the day he had made a careless joke, the day he had called the Queen a Smurf. What had seemed like a disaster had become the most important turning point in human-alien relations. He realized that humans had a rare and valuable gift, the ability to face fear with creativity, to turn mistakes into lessons, and to unite different beings through laughter. That gift, simple, human, and often overlooked, had earned him a place in the galaxy, not through strength or technology, but through joy. As the twin suns of Thalissa Prime set over the glittering city, Marcus stood on the crystal bridge looking at the horizon. The music of the city hummed softly around him, carrying the echoes of laughter, stories, and hope. He felt a deep connection to both worlds, knowing that something as small as a joke could have consequences larger than anyone could imagine. And in that moment, Marcus Hale knew that the Smurf incident, once a source of fear and embarrassment, had become a symbol of humanity's greatest strengths: courage, humor, and the power to bring light into the darkest corners of the universe. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but Marcus now understood that even one human, armed with laughter and sincerity, could make Ahu